so you know while everyone is hyping up the Echoing Strike meta, it's most likely going to be catching the Nerf Hammer. So I present to you this build, something that's actually intended, powerful, and safe for a day one ladder start reset. So if you're excited, ready to start a Warlock, the new ladder, but you don't have the time in your busy life to keep asking yourself, what's a new Warlock build that won't get nerfed? You should check out this guide. I'm going to break it down for you. Let's get into it. So, why this build? Well, there's a lot of stuff going on with the new character class that just got released, as I'm sure you've seen. All the shenanigans going on with Echoing Strike. It's obviously in a state that just feels like it's about to get nerfed. I mean, it's to be able to take a weapon with basically no damage on it and to be able to just walk through the Ubers is kind of intense. It's fun while it lasted, but this is something that's intended to be safe and something that you can feel confident in, that you know is being played as designed. So you should feel safe that this thing's most likely not going to get nerfed. And it's incredibly budget friendly, very, very smooth from level 1. In fact, your starting weapon gives you one of the skills that we start with anyway. It's pretty cool. Miasma is not using any gimmicks. It's clearly the intended design. It's really, really nice in progression. Feels very smooth just from level 1 as you're going. It's very rare to find any kind of immunities that's immune to magic damage. And I've even solved the infamous Hell Baal Throne Room Wave 2 Unraveler magic immune. So I've solved that issue. You could check out my short right here. Pretty cool little trick to get you through. Solo self-found. Ready to go. So let's go ahead and get into it. This is one of the first builds that I started testing when the Warlock was announced. I just really, really, really like damage over time builds. Your Plague Javazon, the Poison Nova Necro, the old Ghost Assad. I love damage over time builds. So when this came out, this is obviously one of the first things that attracted me. I definitely got sidetracked by my Demon Bomber. Check that video out. But coming back to this one, I just thought it'd be really cool to throw something together that's just kind of a nice standard. You know that this is the way that they intended this character to be played. And I've taken it through for you with super, super budget gear that you could find by yourself, solo self-found, and can completely beat Hell difficulty all the way through Baal, so you can get to farming Hell. You can start farming Terror Zones. You could farm Hell Chaos Sanctuary by yourself with gear that you found along the way. I'm talking about stealth, a spirit sword, not even a spirit shield, just a lore helmet, and I'll show you gameplay at the end. So let's go ahead and get into it. I think it'd be good to just go ahead and start with the, kind of how to walk through from level 1 into your level 80s when you get to start farming in Hell difficulty. So a couple of things that I really, really like that just kind of just drives me into the build is that you don't really have to worry about a Spirit Monarch for this one. A lot of the caster builds, that's something that just kind of might not feel too great until you get a Spirit. This one, you're not even going to use one. Even in the best in slot items, we're not using a Spirit Monarch. So that's just kind of nice. You don't even have to worry about farming for it. Then if you do happen to find one, you could sell it right away with at the beginning of the season. So anyways, let's go ahead and start with the character stat breakdown. So, as I said, no need to use Spirit. Very low requirements on strength. I mean, just enough to wear gear for what I've got here, and you could go lower. It's because I'm using a breastplate and a great helm, but you don't have to use helmets that heavy. You could use them lighter. I just put 65. I was also messing around with a plate mail that required 65 strength. Breastplate's 30. So, Great Helm 63, and my plate mail that I was using was a different strength requirement. Anyways, yeah, just enough to wear gear. Dexterity, same thing, just enough to wear your gear. Now, however, I've been getting into hardcore. I started this actually in hardcore. So if that is your route, you may want to think about going max block. One of the options that we really like to use here is Rhyme for the cannot be frozen, and you have some increased block on there. So that's a good shield that you can use for setting up a max block setup. Again, just really nice for hardcore, just the extra safety. You let me know. But you want to make sure you put it in a base that actually has a block. So if you're going to use one of our Grimoire book bases, you want to use that highest tier that has the highest chance to block. Otherwise, a tower shield, something like that. I like using the Grimoires because you can get native plus just skills that are useful for us. Anyways, the rest go into vitality, none into energy. Yeah, you want as much life as you could possibly get. Now, let's talk about skills. We're going to break down the skill tree. The thing that's going to be getting you through the game. The thing that gets you to gain more experience and items and all the stuff. So this build is extremely self-explanatory. We're essentially just maxing out every skill on the right side of the chaos tree. Now, it is a little more complicated than that. You don't want to just willy-nilly running in there and just dumping all your points, because there is some efficiency. Because by the time, I want to put a pin here and note that by the time you get to Hell Act 5, you are going to run into that in the throne room for Baal. You're going to run into the wave 2 that spawns, that's the Unravelers, and those guys are immune to magic. You do magic damage, so you're not going to be able to kill them. However, I have a really cool quick trick that's part of the skills that you should be using along the way anyway to get you through that. So check out my short here. It's really cool, so have no fear. But the thing is that you want to make sure you have enough points set aside to have those either unlocked as you level or just by the time you get there. So we'll break that down. So we're going to be maxing the chaos tree. What I would do, you get a dagger that starts with Miasma Bolt. You can feel comfortable putting at least 5 in here. I wouldn't put more than 10 for leveling. It's just all by preference. If you don't go above 10, you should be in a pretty good spot by the time you hit the end of Hell Act 5. We'll go more into that as we get there, but let's just say 5 to 10 in a Miasma Bolt. I try to keep it as low as possible to keep the extra skills. It's nice to have that skill flexibility. As you unlock stuff, you could put points to it, right? I'm sure you've been there before where you start to, I'm almost at my skill, but you've been maxing out something else along the way, and then you can't use your skill when you unlock it. So yeah, 5 to 10 in a Miasma Bolt. If you go with 5, just save them. Save them until you get to the Miasma Chain. This one is going to be one of our main damage dealers all the way through endgame farming. So this is, once you get this is basically going to turn into your main damage dealer. That's level 12. So the way the skill works is wherever you click, you connect this kind of cool looking chain to you and the point that you clicked, or on a monster. So if the monster runs around, he pulls the chain around. And as the chain moves across the ground, you get these miasma blobs or these miasma piles on the ground that do magic damage over time. So that's why you want to run around. You want some faster run walk, and we'll get to that in the gear. That's really important. But you want faster run walk so you can run around those chains and spread it around faster. It's kind of interesting because you don't really want to teleport as much if you're using the chains for your primary damage dealing. Interesting how they did that, huh? I mean, everyone talks about like, what is Enigma? But this build, this character on its own with its skills kind of feels okay without Enigma. You can plant down multiple chains, by the way, and they expire per the duration. So you can most of the time get 3.5 chains kind of out, and they move around as you're walking around. It's really cool. Now, you just want to have 3 extra points on the side for when you hit level 18, and that's because you're most likely going to want to put 1, 2, 3 to get down to Blade Warp. Now, I will caveat that you can go shop daggers at Drognin as early as normal Act 2. So you can go in and out of town, and you could actually just find a dagger with Blade Warp on it and put it on your weapon swap. And then when you swap, just have Blade Warp as your skill selected. So whenever you press W, you could just right-click and basically teleport and then press W again and go back to your regular weapons. Kind of a nice little way to just get a free 3 points. That's what I did on this build, actually. So now at level 24, you're going to get this really cool enhanced Entropy. This is an awesome skill that's going to do a number of different things to your Miasma magic damage skills. Namely, it's going to increase the duration that those ticks are happening. So it seems like it kind of just starts out at like somewhere between 1 and 2 seconds, but as you put points to this, they'll last up to 6 seconds, I believe, total. Yes, 6 seconds on all of them. Except for this one, yeah. So your other damage over time clouds are 6 seconds. So anyways, but it also adds a miasma radius to those blobs so they get bigger. It seems like they overlap with the chains as they start spawning. Does some pretty decent damage for how budget this is. So yeah, you're going to want to be pumping this out. I would kind of save it though a little bit, because when you want to start putting points to Abyss, but it's a pretty safe spread between these three. You're going to max out Miasma Bolt last. So the way that I would do it is I would get enhanced Entropy up to the point where that Miasma duration is just over 2 seconds. It adds an additional 2 seconds. That way it'll start to feel good, and you can max the chains and Abyss next before finally finishing enhanced Entropy. So yeah, I would just split between those two. Yeah, level 30, unlock Abyss. This is going to pull enemies in, and then it's going to explode. It does a little bit of magic damage. Well, maybe I should put it on the skill. There we go. You know what? My head's in the way. Can I fix this? There we go. I haven't done that much. All right, Abyss. So this pulls the enemies in, and it's going to deal some magic damage over time and explode, dealing magic damage. But the cool thing, the really cool thing that I like about this skill is the pull effect. You could be right in the middle of a sketchy situation, and that pull just happens to happen at the right time, and it stops everyone from hitting you. It kind of just disrupts the actions. It's very, very nice as a safety mechanism. So you'll have fun messing around with that one. So now, as you are progressing after this, just continue maxing Abyss and the Miasma chains together, and then you're going to finish off enhanced Entropy. And again, so into that specific skill combo I was talking about before you max Miasma Bolt, essentially you want to make sure you have 1 point to each of these three to get Sigil of Death. So 1, 2, 3, Sigil of Death. And then you're going to want to go to your Demon Tree, and you're going to want to go 1 point to Goatman, 1 point Tainted. And you're going to always run Defiler anyway, so you might as well just unlock it. When you normally run, you'll going to put a point to this Mastery, Oath, and then Consume. You want Consume. So your normal setup is you're going to summon your Defiler, then consume it to get the magic damage buff. Let me show you what that looks like. So here's the Defiler, and now when you consume him, you get the specific negative 10% enemy magic resistance, which is super huge for us, and then a plus 20% magic skill damage, which is also super huge for us. But now this trick that I'm talking about to get past the Act 5 Wave 2 Baal minions is going to use all of this mechanic. Now notice my consume is level 11. That is because this plus magic skill damage goes up 1% per point all the way up to skill level 11 soft points, which is kind of weird. It's 11. Everything else is like 10 and 20. This one's 11. I don't know why. If it was level 10, it would say plus 19% to magic skill damage. Anyways, level 11, that's where your goal is, because that's the biggest buff you'll get. Points after this isn't going to do anything except for give you some more movement speed and duration. So feel free if you want to spend your extra points there. So what we're going to do when we hit the Baal minions is before they spawn, we're actually going to summon a Tainted. Where's my Tainted? Where's my Tainted? We're going to summon a Tainted. And now when you consume a Tainted, the buff is different. You're going to get a negative % to enemy fire resistance and plus 20% to fire skill damage. So we're going to consume him. Bam, we get those buffs. And before those minions spawn, you're going to drop down your sigil death. Because what happens is when you, well, it's going to slay enemies that are in this sigil that have 13% or less health. And when they are slain, they explode for fire damage, dealing 70 to 120% of their health. So you can see that increasing your fire damage and reducing enemy fire resistance really helps this explosion. So when those magic immune enemies come out with all of their skeleton minions, we can still kill the skeletons. So if they spawn inside of this sigil and you've got your damage over time effects happening, the skeletons die, and they pop on the magic immune guys. They're probably not going to die on the first hit, but they'll resummon the skeletons, and then they'll die again and explode, and they'll probably die on the second round. Pretty nice little tip to get through that. Back over. Malah, I'm sorry, she's probably terrified that I'm just like sitting in here with her with all my demons on the floor. I'm sure she's not moving. She's scared still. Sorry, old lady. She's probably seen a lot, though. This guy. Anyways, so let's go ahead and go over the gear. Now, this is, I wanted to put something together as budget as you possibly can get, and still be able to clear Hell Chaos Sanctuary. So, fun thing about this character is they could use two-handed weapons in one hand, so I thought it's fun to make a Spirit and a Claymore. I made this, and it's the lowest roll, just so I could kind of simulate what it would be like in case you did get the lowest roll. I aimed for the 75% faster cast rate. You don't necessarily need to, because we are doing a lot of walking, and there's some casting delays, but it still just helps the motion. The motion is faster, and then you keep on walking. So anyways, we start out with a spirit weapon. I'm going to go ahead and just list the budget items, but then I'll also give you the recommendations as you progress all the way up to probably best in slot items. So the first thing that you're going to go for is probably gambling or shopping a dagger with the skills that you might need. I mean, that's a really good early option before we can get 4-socketed swords. You can find a good dagger. I was trying to find one that had a summon on it and some of our miasma skills, but couldn't get it. But that's one of the things I really love about this part of D2's itemization is now with the new Void runeword, you could make it in a dagger that has these native skills to the Warlock. So it's like you might be able to find a white base that has the plus to skills you need that's really rare, that's really worth something. And in my opinion, it's the best in slot item here is Void. It requires a Zod rune and an Ist. I think it's a Thol Zod Ist. But good use case finally for a Zod rune. 40 faster cast rate, 2 to all skills on top of the native skills that you get. It gives you a plus to Abyss for other characters to use. But the coolest thing is it gives you increased magic skill damage, just a total new best in slot. I think even for Hammerdins and FOH Paladins as well. So Bone Necros, I mean, it's going to be a really cool new option. But in between there, we have, you start with a dagger. And like I said, if you get a Blade Warp on there, you could skip those skills. But yeah, first goal is going to be the Spirit Sword. Obviously, you find a Suicide Branch, that 50 cast rate and 1 to all skills life resistances. That's really nice. A Heart of the Oak is a really good option. It's a pretty solid just end game option if you don't want to go for the Void Dagger. Again, 40 cast rate, 3 to all skills, huge, all resistances, and then it gives you Oak Sage too, so it's added life. Really cool. But again, best in slot is going to be Void. Nice new item for this season, and let's go. Okay, let's move on to the helmet slot. I made this one in a great helm because I just thought it looks cool. This drip, come on, let's go. Anyways, the first one to aim for is a lore. You're going to be able to make this probably in pretty easy and normal difficulty. I wouldn't farm the Countess for a soul rune, but now with our stash space, you know that we're going to be able to cube up and make runes like really easy. I've always been able to make this in normal difficulty, at least by entering Nightmare. So, but yeah, your first one that you're going to be looking for is going to be this one. Let's see, but just keep an eye out for things that are dropping. If you happen to find a Tarn Helm, 1 to all skills, Magic Fine, super sweet. Peasant Crown, Cool about Peasant Crown, one-to-all skills, but it gives you some movement speed. Like I said, we run around, that helps us apply our damage faster, so really cool use case for getting movement speed on items. Just really anything that can cover like gaps that you have, like resistances and things like that. A Shaco would be a great upgrade, but I think the best in slot for this character is going to be the new Hellwarden's Will. It's got one-to-all skills, 20 faster cast rate, and negative enemy magic resistance. And you could put a Socket in there. Probably a good candidate for the new unique jewels. All right, moving on to the shield slot. Lots of options here. You'll start dropping these codexes, these grimoire type books early on. So just keep an eye out. You'll find skills on them, just like the necromancer heads. Good thing right away is to look for is one that you can make rhyme in. I really like rhyme. You could use Splendor also. It's 1 to skills and 10 cast rate. Kind of helps with the casting breakpoint. But I like rhyme for the cannot be frozen. Again, you really need cannot be frozen, so you could just freely run around without being hindered. It also has Magic Find on there, which is going to be really nice. Once you get into Hell difficulty, if you happen to find a 4-socket Monarch, good for you. But the cool thing is you don't really need it for this build, so you could actually just sell it. They're normally pretty valuable at the very beginning of a season, so just keep that in mind. You find a white Monarch or a 4-socketed Monarch, and you could sell them, especially when it's early in the latter season. But it's really cool. This is another item slot where the white items can be, even the blue ones can be maybe the best in slot. So the blue ones can roll like +3 to chaos skills and then 3 to individual skills, effectively giving you +6 possibly to like Abyss or Miasma chains, along with getting sockets. How cool is that? Anyways, I think the best in slot is going to be that new Ars de Mephisto. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. It's got a gigantic 30 faster cast rate, 2 to warlock skills, and a -10 to -20 enemy magic resist. And it has a socket. That's going to be a flex. Good one to put that Guardian's Light jewel in. I think that's best in slot. Moving on to the armor. I think Hysteria is the first go-to co-rune. Not always the best to drop. It's not like a high rune. It's right in the middle. It's not too crazy, but this would be the first one to aim for. Until then, you're going to be able to make a stealth. I mean, right away. You could farm Tal Eth from normal Countess. You might even get it as your first drop if you're lucky. I wouldn't bank on that. You might have to run 10, maybe more. But when you get in Act 2 and you get your cube, you can cube up runes. But Tal Eth, you'll be able to make a stealth. That's going to be a very handy piece. The little cast rate's going to help right away. From there, a smoke is a really nice one. That is a Nef Lum for 50 all resistances in your armor and some other minor bonuses. Very, very nice. A really cool option, like I said, is this Hysteria. The movement speed, 65 faster run walk. You saw what I was doing. I was wearing this Hysteria. That's a really nice application to get our damage out there. Plus the 6 to evade. You know what that does? That's an Amazon skill that provides 40% chance to dodge a melee or missile attack when walking or running. That's all we're doing. That's hilarious. Anyways, Endgame is Enigma, as always. Boots, we're just prioritizing movement speed. We want to move, and resistances on top of that. So just anything that you need to squeeze in there. If you don't need anything resistance-wise, I would wear War Travelers for Magic Find, or any other rares with Magic Find that you find. Alder's boots and Nat's boots are really good, easy to find options that seem to just drop during playthroughs a lot of the time. So I like Nat's because it has dual resist. Alder's is good because it has 1 heavy resist. So yeah, whichever you're lucky enough to find. Happy hunting. Now, one thing though is those new boots, the Horizon's Legacy, might be just a really cool one here if you do want to counter the negative magic resist you're going to get for farming your Sunder Charm. It's got 10 to 15 to both strength and dexterity on there, and cannot be frozen. So it's kind of an interesting consideration that you can clear up that cannot be frozen slot. So that opens up the Splendor option on potentials that could be the best bases in the game. So just think about that. The belt, I would just craft right away just a caster belt. This can really be anything that you need to fill in your gaps. For me, it was castrate. The recipe here, I'll put it on the screen. Not too bad. It's something that you could just keep in mind. You're going to be collecting your gems and hoarding like a crazy madman now. I know you are, because we all are. Let's go. Stash tabs. But yeah, you basically just want to fill in your gaps. You could use a Thunder God's Vigor, whatever that's pronounced, if you're going to be farming in the World's Stone Keep. Something nice to have whenever you're going to fight lightning enemies, just to keep safe. Arachnid Mesh is obviously one of the best in slot options with 1 to skills of 20 cast rate, but I think the very best in slot is going to, again, be a brand new item, Gheed's Wager. The faster cast rate that's on there, the faster run walk, again, we're running, and the negative enemy magic resist and all resist just makes this crazy. I don't think it could be beaten by anything else. Gloves, I just like the Trang gloves for the cold resistance. Also, and just whatever you need to meet your faster cast rate breakpoint. You'll most likely need them here, so Mage Fist or Trangs are good, but you don't need the 1 to fire skills on Mage Fist. Cold resist is nice in this spot. Amulet, in the beginning, just whatever you could find. If you happen to find anything with skills, just toss it on there. Anything to fill in the gaps. Telling of Beads, this thing sometimes just seems to drop pretty freely. If you happen to find Amaras along the way, or as your magic funding, that's a great upgrade. In the very end, I think the brand new Entropy Locket is going to be the best. Again, with these increased magic damage and negative enemy magic resist, these are just such huge damage modifiers for our build that it's hard to beat. Rings, just whatever you could fit in. These are just caster rings. Obviously, those are pretty insane mods, but just you could literally use blue 10 cast rate ring. That's it, and do what I'm doing. So, yeah, ideally, if you could slot in a BK ring, Bull Cathos ring, or a Stone of Jordan, and a Sling ring, I think that's going to be the best options, but whatever really fits your needs. So, from here, the Mercenary, I really wanted to use an Act 5 Frenzy Mercenary with Lawbringers, and that's because there's not really any auras or curses that's going to help us damage-wise, so we're kind of just looking for utility, and I kind of feel like Decrypify, just slowing everyone down and kind of managing that would be really nice, but for now, I like just the old tried and true setup of Insight. That mana recovery is just so nice to have. And again, I just always can't break the habit of needing to logically pair this with the synergy of prayer. When he's wearing Insight, you get the prayer healing. He's a prayer or a mercenary, so he's got prayer on, but when he wears meditation on Insight, you're also got his prayer on that too. And then when you wear Cure, that level prayer is also applying on the Cure aura, so it's triple his prayer aura. So nice little healing buff. It's not too huge, but it's just a little buffer of health. Really nice for leveling. You're going to get Insight and Cure pretty early, so that's nice, but the mana and recovery is just really where it's at. If you could toss a smoke on him, that'll help him with his survivability. So he's just kind of our buffer stick. Anyways, that's it for the Mercenary. So yeah, my final thoughts on the build. I just think that this is something that's really cool if you're kind of like me, you're really tight on time. You got a family, you've got another full-time job, and you have other obligations, but this might be your favorite game and you just want to jump in. You got new content on a game that you played growing up. So this is a build that should be completely safe from any kind of nerfs. It's not using any kind of weird gimmicks. It looks like it's totally intended design. And it's something that you could just go straight through and you don't need to worry about respecking, and you could use items that you farm along the way. Perfect for a busy schedule, something you could jump in and out. Something that's totally solo self-found friendly if that's your vibe. And I think anything that's solo self-found friendly is a nice translation to just ladder starters anyway. I hope this is something that helps you, inspires you. Maybe if you're looking at my other build, the Demon Bomber, maybe you have the awesome problem of not knowing which character to start now because they're all so fun looking. I hope that's your case. Anyways, again, I do have a busy schedule, but this is my favorite game. I really like helping people, and all I want to do is be able to collaborate with you guys and just just to figure out the fun ways that we could play all of this new content that's coming out. So let's share ideas. If there's anything that sparked your interest or you have something that you want to just share, put it down there in the comments. Let's get the conversation rolling. Now, until then, ladder is starting really soon. I hope you guys have a blast. Let's all get together. Let's all get out there, find good loot. Happy hunting. May RNG bless you for this season. Stay tuned. I'm going to keep pumping out more videos for the other classes as well, because there's new updates that have happened with this new content that affects not just the Warlock. There's awesome things that are happening across the board. I'm going to have an update to my Mage Paladin, the FOH Hammers. He's one of my very favorite characters to farm with, so just stay tuned for that and others. Anyways, until then, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate all the activity going on in the comments. You guys are so great. This is really cool. Love the discussion, so just let's keep it going. Love you all. Happy hunting, and I'll see you next time. Peace.